What's up guys, it's Wasabi and I'm back with another review. Today we have the PCMK2HE TKL and this was sent to me by Pulsar to share with you guys. But as always with the content on this channel, these are my thoughts, personal opinions and experiences with the product. Now here's a quick look at the packaging because that's what you pay for too. Pulsar's product packaging is always very nicely designed in their style and great fun to unbox, at least for me. First you got the extensive quick start guide, a keyboard sleeve, and this piece of plastic which you use as a dust cover. Also, you got a keycap and switch puller, a paracord USB-C to A cable, and that's pretty much all that's included inside the box. Now, before we go any further, let's manage some expectations here real quick. This is the first Hall effect keyboard released from Pulsar, which pretty much looks exactly the same as their old mechanical gaming keyboard that they released quite some time ago, so don't get confused when you're shopping on their website. Pretty much every gaming brand that has keyboards as one of their product offerings should have a keyboard with rapid trigger and adjustable actuation today, and though Pulsar is very late to the party, I'd say it's better late than never. With what Pulsar is trying to achieve to be the market leader of high-performance gaming peripherals and having partnerships with some of the biggest Esports Valorant teams in Pacific, T1 and PaperRex, expectations are high. And this one is available for a price of about $160. This is a nice design that they are continuing from their first mechanical keyboard, the PCMK TKL. Here we have a solid black top with a set of white keycaps with a custom ID tag that you can purchase on the website, and this is illuminated with a LED strip under it which acts as a status indicator. The sides of the case are angled in a way when you look at the keyboard at certain angles on your desk, it creates the illusion that the keyboard looks like it's floating. The entire bottom is plastic, the sides have a frosted finish and a completely transparent finish on the bottom. And that's where you can see the design silicone sound dampener. And you also got adjustable back feet to give you an additional 2 tilt angles. I must say that this keyboard looks a lot better on the website than it does in person though. It's just the bottom of the keyboard that makes the keyboard look cheaper than it is, but the top side is fine. Overall, the case feels pretty good. This keyboard feels tightly put together. The top of the case is aluminum and the weight of it all is substantial. You don't have a gasket mount here or anything out of the ordinary. But what they did was stuff 3 layers of sound dampening material in the build to help with noise and absorbing vibrations. This is a TKL 80% layout. There are no dedicated controls. All controls outside of the standard keys are accessible in the function layer. And just note that for this keyboard, you can access only 3 profiles, which should be more than enough for most people. But if you're someone who has a profile for work and more than 2 profiles for different games, then you might be a little limited here. This comes with double shot PBT keycaps. These are very smooth in texture, and I wouldn't say that there is any benefit for gamers, which is unfortunately something that a lot of brands do not seem to explore. But on the bright side, the legends are very clear and consistent on this set. Overall, the quality is decent. The color tones are really good too. White is a bright white and black is a deep black, and this is great because if you're going for that sort of clean and black and white look, the blacks of the keycaps should match with the aluminum top case, for example, to create a strong contrast effect. Here you got get-around Pulsar magnetic switches. It's got a dual rail switch design, but even so, they feel wobbly as hell. But thank goodness this keyboard is hot swappable and supports both north and south pole configurations. And I highly recommend changing the switches if you plan to get this keyboard, because quite honestly, I'd say that these switches would feel good maybe 2 years ago. The typing sound of this keyboard is very average for the price. It's not unbearable, it's definitely better than some of the other big brand analog keyboard offerings, but it's pretty boring in my opinion. There are 3 layers of sound dampening in the build, but for this keyboard, it feels a little overdone. Like it's there not to create an enjoyable sound or typing feel to make this keyboard unique, but more like it's there to mask any nasty sounds from the materials that they are working with. Typing experience is very stiff, which I think is fine if you're gonna use this keyboard only for gaming, but this build doesn't bring out the best in other magnetic switches that I have tried on it. Xeon Raw HE switches, for example, which are fantastic switches, very popular for good reason, don't sound as good as I expected here. But what bothers me most about the Pulsar switches is the amount of wobble that you feel, and it reminds me a lot of Generation 1 lacquer switches, which makes a keyboard released today for the price feel like it's behind budget Hall effect keyboard offerings, which is kinda sad. Now don't get me wrong, this does not mean that it's unusable in any way, but don't forget that this is a keyboard that is not specifically designed for modding, so just keep in mind that you are limited to changing the switches and keycaps to refine the typing experience. Now here's a quick sound test to give you a better idea of how this keyboard sounds. There are a lot of RGB lighting settings, something like 44 lighting effects and options to customize the colors, which is fantastic. I love lighting effects on my keyboard, but the thing is that these keycaps are not shine through, and you can barely see it from the angle when you're sitting down. I can't help but feel that it would have been nice if Pulsar did a version with shine through keycaps, because that way you can really enjoy the extensive variety of lighting effect options, which are pretty nice. Connectivity wise, this keyboard is wired only and has a true 8K polling rate with a latency of 0.125 milliseconds. And also this keyboard works with Windows and Mac OS. Their web-based software is called Bibimbap. It's not the worst software I've ever experienced for a Hall effect keyboard, but it doesn't feel like polished work. I think it's simple enough for most people to navigate and customize their settings, RGB lighting and effects, remapping the keys, setting macros, and of course the most important part, actuation distance and rapid trigger settings. The one thing that bothers me about this software is that when you set your rapid trigger on a key, let's say WASD like you see here for example, it shows on the layout both the press and release distance of rapid trigger, even though I have the setting that says separate press release sensitivity toggled off, and it doesn't show you the actuation point of the switches with rapid trigger on at a glance, so the only way to check is by clicking each key at a time. Also, for some reason when you're trying out and selecting different lighting effects from the software, at times the RGBs on the keyboard will freeze and it's kind of weird, but I am sure that it is something that can be worked out with a future update. If you do get this keyboard and this happens to you, the fix is to replug the cable and reconnect the keyboard to the web-based software. For gaming, it definitely doesn't lag in performance, that's for sure, but it's kinda missing on some magnetic switch features. While it does have SOCD snap tap, which they name as quick tap, it doesn't have mod tap or dynamic keystroke, which is a feature that you would see on pretty much every Hall effect keyboard today. And though I don't use some of these features, there are gamers who find them useful and enjoy weaving it into their gameplay, even though this is a TKL. Overall, this keyboard isn't very impressive. It has magnetic switches, rapid trigger, adjustable actuation, and an 8K polling rate, but the keyboard itself doesn't do anything more to make itself a competitive offering today, because even new budget keyboards that have came out have all these features and more. I don't hate the experience of my time using this keyboard. It is very basic, but perhaps this is what they have in mind, considering that they split their products into two tiers: the basic entry-level offering and the ES line, which is for their high-performance products. So I do look forward to seeing how much better that one would be. Now, what are some things I enjoyed about this keyboard? Well, I guess the look of the keyboard is pretty neat, and being hot swappable gives this an edge over the big brand gaming keyboards in this category for now. But other than that, it's very basic, and it would have been very nice if they did something unique with this one. I have some little suggestions, and keeping in mind that this is the entry-level Hall effect keyboard. First is the keyboard feet, and as much as I like white designs, I don't think that using white rubber feet is such a good idea, because this will look like a piss yellow over time. And you know, I mean, if you want people to keep using your keyboard for a long time, then I think it would be best to use black or at least a shade of gray. The second thing is the switches. I think these switches are pretty bad for a release today. They work perfectly fine, of course, but you see, it's just the price and the typing experience that it gives. If someone is gonna spend this much on a Hall effect keyboard that doesn't take the custom keyboard direction, I feel that it should at least be something that you can pick up and enjoy using daily without having to even think about changing the switches. For me, I have a lot of magnetic switches in hand, but for the general gaming audience, it would be nice to have something better so they don't have to think about spending more money on switches. And the last thing is the software. The software from my experience was slow and a little buggy even after updating. Also, the updating process is kind of weird and confusing, like you can't just press a button on the software and it updates your keyboard. You kind of need to download a file from the web page, click the button on the software settings, it closes the software, and then you put the downloaded file in the folder that opens up. I don't know about you, but it feels like a process from 2010. I think for any Hall effect gaming keyboard, whether it's an entry-level offering or a tier 1 esports performance keyboard, the software has to be polished, because this is a big part of the experience, especially for gamers using a keyboard like this for the first time. Now, final thoughts, and what do I think of its value? For $160, I think this keyboard is okay if you're new to Hall effect gaming keyboards and you are committed to using Pulsar gaming peripherals. I am very grateful that they sent me this keyboard, but as always, that should never have any degree of influence on how I feel about the product. I really like Pulsar, and back when I bought the first X1V1, I really wanted to see them be the best gaming brand in the world, but this keyboard is incredibly mediocre today. I think that for Pulsar to fulfill their mission of being a global global leader in delivering high-performance gaming peripherals, which is what they put on their website by the way, they need to slow down a little and really look into what's being offered in the market, because this one feels like a keyboard that would have been a competitive offering a couple of years ago, and it really shows in the product and software. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful in any way, please leave a like and subscribe to support the channel, and I guess I'll see you in the next one.